Hey guys, what's up? It's iFlynn here, and in today's video, we're going to be checking out the Trinity rework that came with the Warframe 1999 update. So this update literally touched every single one of Trinity's abilities, and she's came out the other end just a better version of herself than she already was prior to the 1999 update. The builds that you've got on Trinity, if you haven't touched them in a while, they're still going to work basically the exact same. I would say that this update to Trinity or this rework to Trinity is more of like just a quality of life update for the frame in general. So first up, we have Well of Life. Now this actually has a little bit of added functionality. So what you can do now is you can cast it while on the move. You don't have to stay still. And also you can cast this ability on 3 enemies at a time now. On top of that, we also have this new mechanic where if an ally dies when you've got an enemy affected by Well of Life, the enemy that is affected by Well of Life is now going to die instead of the teammate that goes down. So if you're playing with a bunch of new players and they keep on dying for some reason, let's say for example they keep on dying to like a pretty bad toxin proc or something like that, Well of Life is going to save them. Like, it doesn't work all the time. If they go down and then Well of Life saves them and then they go down like 2 seconds after, they're gonna actually die because there is a cooldown on it. But at that point, it's probably just a skill issue, so yeah. Next up, we've got Energy Vampire. Now, this is an ability which is very close to my heart because I've probably used this ability a lot way back in the early days of Warframe, in the raids, the Law of Retribution, the trials. But basically, if you wanted to make a build around the Energy Vampire back in the day, you would have to mod for negative duration instead of positive duration, because what negative duration would do is it would make it so that all of the pulses from Energy Vampire would come out a lot faster. So the ability would pulse on the enemy 4 times and let out 4 waves of energy, and by limiting your duration or negating your duration, then the pulses would come out a lot quicker, meaning you'd get a massive burst of energy as soon as you cast the ability. And if you wanted to do like a longer duration build or more duration build with Trinity, it wouldn't actually be that great of an ability because you'd have to wait for a long time between the pulses to get the energy that you wanted. So with this update, what they've done is they've made it so that having more duration gives you more pulses, and they've also added a little stat on this screen saying pulse interval. So you're going to get a pulse every single 2.25 seconds with an unmodded Trinity. And the longer you make this ability last, the more pulses you're going to get. You can still go back and you can still do a negative duration Energy Vampire Trinity, and the build is going to work the exact same way. But the update basically just means you don't have to mod for negative duration anymore to make this ability be really good. They've also made it so that you can recast it and cast it while moving, so another nice quality of life. Next up, we've got Link. Now, this is all quality of life changes as well, so you can recast Link whenever it's active to refresh the duration and also while you're moving. The number of enemies you can link to is going to scale with your ability strength. The base duration of the ability has been increased from 12 to 17 seconds, and they've changed the wording of the ability as well. So instead of calling it damage reduction, it's called damage redirection because you're passing the damage being dealt to you onto the enemies. And then on top of that, Blessing, also just basically quality of life changes. So the duration has been increased from 10 to 15 seconds. And they've just made the damage resistance a little bit more consistent between casts as well. So you don't like, maybe for like a second not have the damage resistance and then accidentally die because of some BS reason or something like that. So it's just more consistent now. So what you're going to notice whenever you're running around and playing Trinity, let's say you're playing as the new character in the 1999 quest and you use the 1 and the 2, you're going to notice that she just feels a lot smoother, right? You can say the same for the third ability as well because you can cast everything on the move. And this is just like really good quality of life because, it used to be that a lot of Trinity's abilities would just make you have to stand still, like Energy Vampire, you do like a weird stance. Don't remember if it was like that with Well of Life. I remember sometimes Well of Life maybe stand still. Maybe they changed that a long time ago, but I'm not often playing Trinity, so I just don't remember off the top of my head if Well of Life maybe stand still prior to this update. But yeah, it's nice that I can jump around and cast, 75% of my abilities now, and Blessing is the only one that really like locks you in place, so to speak. But when it comes to builds for Trinity, there is only really one that I really enjoy a lot, and it's this triple augment build that we've got going. So the triple augment build uses the Vampire Leech augment for more shields whenever I use Energy Vampire. Champion's Blessings, we get primary and secondary critical chance for 30 seconds for each percent that you heal yourself and allies with Blessing, and a beating link to reduce the enemy's armor with the link ability. Combat Discipline is going to pair very well with the Champion's Blessing and also allow us to use Arcane Avenger for even more critical chance. Molt Augmented is going to allow us to bump our ability strength up even further, so we get 100% armor strip with a beating link. Archon Intensify also pairs with Combat Discipline and all of Trinity's healing abilities, so we get even more ability strength. And I've opted for just a little bit of range here because, as you can see, I'm running narrow-minded and this is a hit to your ability range, so I put on just stretch to counteract that because I don't want to have too much range. I didn't want to throw on overextend it and then have to overcompensate my ability strength, right? So with this here build, if I get like maybe 60 Molt Augmented stacks, then I've got the 100% armor strip with Link. If I was running overextend it instead of stretch, I would need to overcompensate for the amount of ability strength that I lose, maybe through an Archon Shard or through more Molt Augmented stacks, so I would full strip far later on in a mission. That, and I just like the amount of range that I'm getting from just having stretch on and a free from the top narrow-minded because I'm using silence over Well of Life. Now you might think to yourself, well, it's a little bit weird that you're using silence because the entire idea is to take damage to heal with Champion's Blessing, but that's why we have Combat Discipline. Like, we are going to be doing a lot of killing, and because we've got Combat Discipline on, we're going to be taking a lot of damage and we're going to heal that damage back with Champion's Blessing. We don't actually have to have the enemies dealing the damage to us, and that's actually why we're using Vampire Leech, right? Because Vampire Leech is going to give us a lot of shields so we can stay alive. If we take a big hit, we're going to shield gate that hit, and that's going to give us the time to, like, you know, react and use Blessing and stuff like that to heal ourselves up and keep ourselves alive. Another thing that we're doing as well is we're actually running the Bleeding Dragon key, and this is going to reduce our health. So if we were to get a kill and Combat Discipline deals damage to us, well, we're actually going to heal a higher percentage of our health with Blessing just from one cast because we're losing like a bigger percentage of our health with the Bleeding Dragon key on. But the downside of this build is that you might accidentally die by killing yourself with Combat Disciplines, so you got to keep that in mind. If you think that's going to happen to you, you can replace a mod for quick thinking just to keep yourself alive, but honestly, as long as you're paying attention to what you're doing, you're going to be fine. So just to show you guys how her abilities work with this build, here is an Energy Vampire cast, and as you can see, it still deals a lot of damage because for those of you who don't know, Energy Vampire is just an ability that for some reason deals a ton of damage. You can see the duration on the bottom right of the screen, so I've got 9 seconds left on this, and it's pulsed a lot, and it just gives you a lot of energy. You can see that I'm getting a lot of overshields because it's pulsing, and you know, that's great. Then if I go ahead and I cast my third ability, this is Link, you can see that it just reduces the enemy's armor, and with the current ability strength that I've got right now, it's only linked to 3 enemies. But if I were to get kills, then I would build up my Molt Augmented stacks. I know you can see 80 up there in the top right, but that's currently bugged. I need to die and reset to reset the stacks to, you know, actually make it show its proper effect. But if I were to get more kills and build up 250 stacks, which I will show you guys, then, you know, they're going to have their armor completely stripped. Now, if we go ahead and we get some kills, so you can see that I'm taking damage because of Combat Discipline. So I've got myself down to 17 health. I go ahead and I cast Blessing, and you can see that we've got Champion's Blessing here, 90% increased primary and secondary critical chance from healing allies with Blessing. So if I go ahead, I cast my Link, I cast my Energy Vampire, and I just shoot the head of the enemies, you can see that we actually have like some insane crit chance, and we're constantly dealing like at least orange crits. So what I've went ahead and done is I've got my health super low. I've built up the 250 Molt Augmented stacks. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and cast Link. And as you can see, we've connected to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 enemies. We can go ahead and we can cast our Energy Vampire. You can see the amount of damage that it's dealing per tick, and also the fact that we're getting our overshields there. Very nice. Then if we go ahead, we cast our 4, we get all of that health back. You can see that we proc Archon Intensify. We've got 90% on Champion's Blessing, and we have 75% damage reduction because of Blessing, plus the damage reversal from Link as well, and we're dealing like a shit ton of damage with our primary weapon and also our secondary weapon as well if we were to use that. So after I get my deadhead stacks, you can see that I'm only orange critting basically minimum. Now the thing is, we're capped out at 90% because the only thing that I'm doing whenever it comes to the healing is healing myself. But if you're playing in a squad with other people, if you've got a companion equipped, all that there type of stuff, the amount that you get back from Champion's Blessing is obviously going to be a lot higher, right? So don't worry too much about the fact that like we're capped out to 90% here in the simulacrum. It's really not that big of a deal, and you will always get like a really high crit chance buff from Champion's Blessing whenever you're playing in a squad or with companions and stuff like that. So the only thing left to do now is to go ahead and unpause the AI and actually like maybe tank a little bit with this build. So I would just go ahead, cast Silence, cast my Link, and then you know, have Energy Vampire on an enemy. You can see that I just shield gate there. Whenever you shield gate, that gives you the time to like, you know, use an ability or something, and obviously save yourself from dying. Your Energy Vampire, the enemies that you affect with that, they're always going to give you, you know, enough shield to go ahead and then shield gate to keep yourself alive. And you know, you've got Link, so that reduces the incoming amount of damage to your health, reflects it back at the enemy. Blessing is your damage reduction as well, so you're basically never gonna die, especially if you're just, you know, staying on top of like what you're doing. You know, you're making sure that you recast an ability whenever it's over. So you're recasting Silence whenever it ends, you're recasting Energy Vampire whenever it ends, you're recasting Link whenever it ends, and you're recasting Blessing whenever that ends as well. So it's all about just constantly keeping your abilities up, paying attention to your health and stuff like that, and you'll be absolutely fine. So it is a lot to keep in mind, but that is kind of just Trinity. There are a lot of other builds that you can make. So for example, you can just make an Energy Vampire build where you cast Energy Vampire and, you know, the bad guy's going to take a lot of damage and he's going to die. So it's a really good like sort of single target damage dealing build that you can go for, or you can build around Well of Life and keeping your allies alive if they happen to be going down. Say for example, it's a super intense mission, not too sure what that mission might be, maybe it's arbitrations or something, you can make a build for that. But for just playing around, surviving, maybe doing a long mission, this is absolutely the build that I would go for on Trinity. But anyway, guys, I think that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed it, go ahead, hit like. If you want to see more Warframe content from me, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.